Welcome to the Eye on Annapolis Local Business Spotlight. There are thousands of locally owned businesses in the area, some small and some large. Some you may know and others you don't. But one thing they all have in common is a great story, and we want to share it with you. Join us every Saturday as we talk to the founders, the owners, and the managers of local businesses you have come to know and love, and those you will come to know and love. Now here's your host, John Frenay, with this week's Local Business Spotlight.
Well, I'll tell you, we seem to be on a dog kick lately. I mean, of course, we do the canines and cross treks every Friday with the SPCA and Subaru. We did talk to American Canine a while ago, and they do a lot of service dogs. And that's where I learned the difference between the letter K and the number 9 and canine spelled out. But today we are with Kim Greco, who is the founder, owner, and chief cook and bottle washer for Paws and Possibilities as a dog training facility right out here in the Broadneck Peninsula. I guess this is still probably considered Annapolis, isn't it?
This is Annapolis, but I think if we threw a stone, we'd probably land it in Arnold.
Well, it's across that Able Severn River, which delayed me getting here with the traffic today. Thank you so much for having me out and to see your operation and really to talk about Paws and Possibility, because very basically you are and your crew train dogs.
That's correct.
But you're really a lot different. As I looked, and the website is pawsandpossibilities.com, and that's paws like the dog front legs and back legs, I guess. And we all love a well-behaved dog. Less so with the crazy ones that'll jump all over you and pin you against the wall and slobber you with kisses and everything else. You know, as I looked at your site, I mean, you guys are very, very different. I mean, you've got puppy training, which is pretty much to be expected, probably standard thing. But I mean, you've got group classes, you've got virtual, which I thought was really interesting. You've got private classes, you do therapy training, boarding and training, and that's boot camp, I'm guessing.
It is.
As well as, and on your own self-guided, which is really unusual to be able to do that. Because I mean, I would think that I kind of need your expertise, and maybe you're cracking the whip or something like that with the dogs. But you guys have a really neat business model here. I guess the question is where do you do your training? Do you do it here or?
Well, it depends on what type of training. And you just mentioned all that we offer. So the boot camp, the board and train dogs are here. And there are actually, we have the basement of this house renovated for that operation. And so where some people who are in a house like this might call their basement, like they have a guest room, that guest room in my house is where we put dog crates, and that's like the kennel room for where the dogs are staying. And then what other people might call their rec room, like a big open space in the basement, for us is renovated for dog training. We have different areas and place beds. We have 3 treadmills set up for dogs to learn how to walk on treadmills.
And why does a dog need to walk on a treadmill?
Well, they don't need to walk on a treadmill.
Is that exercise?
It can be exercise. We actually use it mostly for helping build confidence in dogs that are a little bit skittish. Because it's a situation where they're usually pretty nervous when it first starts moving, but it also doesn't take very much training or effort to get them comfortable on it. And so I tend to see dogs find a really quick boost in their confidence once they figure out, like, I just walk normal and it's fine. And so it's kind of a cool confidence building skill for a lot of dogs. We also use it sometimes for dogs that are reactive to other dogs, so that as we're starting to get to the point where they're getting closer to other dogs or other dogs are moving past them, sometimes we find that if we pair that while they're walking on the treadmill, it's just more things for them to have to think about than just fixating, laser focused on that one dog that they want to bark at. So it's just one little tool that we can use to help them.
It sounds like you're part
help
shrink
rehabilitate
too.
them.
Part dog shrink.
Right.
Do you have a couch down there?
If we talk about, we do actually have a couch down there, but just wait if we ever talk about private lessons. Every single dog trainer that works for me at some point has told me they sometimes feel more like a marriage counselor than a dog trainer. Because when people are having a problem with their dog, it can be very stressful for the whole house or parents with their kids if they're worried about if things aren't going well. And so we come in and we're training the dog, but we're also working to make sure that the people are all on the same page and that everybody's understanding what we're doing.
Well, I think that they're equal parts of dog training and people training. You have to know how to talk to your pet. I mean, they're a part of your family. You need it just like you do have to learn how to talk to your kid, just as you learn how to talk to your spouse and everything else there. And it's really all about how you raise that puppy. And we were talking with the SPCA yesterday, and a cutest little pit bull puppy. And pit bulls always get this bad rap. But with the right training, they're the most lovable creatures that are out there. Obviously, with the wrong training, yes, you hear the horror stories about biting grandmom's face and stuff like that. But it's all about meeting them where they are and them meeting you where you are, I think.
Absolutely. Well, it's a two-way street for sure, give and take. And for me, when we teach our clients, we focus a lot on what they want the definition to be. We always say, I feel like a mantra almost, like if you can define it, then we can train it. So if you have to sort of figure out like, what do you want your relationship to be like with your dogs? And that we are very clear that every single person is unique and every family is unique. Every dog is unique. And so you would tell me, like, what do you want your relationship to be like? And if you have a dog that would struggle with that, then we have to have a conversation about, your dog might not want to go on a hike every single weekend, or your dog might not like going downtown Annapolis. And so is there a way that we can adapt what your goals are? Or is there a bigger problem here? Like this dog just isn't a good match for you. But most of the time we're able to get people to be able to, like you said, meet their dog where they are. And then over time, we can certainly rehabilitate and then shape the direction that we want to go.
I mean, obviously training a puppy is ideal. Teach them young and teach them often.
Sure.
Are older dogs impossible?
No. You can, in fact, teach an old dog new tricks.
Okay, there you go.
Right? Yeah, I think that one of the cases that I had about 7 years ago will stand out for me forever as one that was the most rewarding, and it was a dog that was 12 years old who had really extreme separation anxiety. And I think it had been like upwards of almost 6 or 7 years that dog had never been left alone because he was anxious and destructive, and he would hurt himself or hurt the house if you tried to leave him by himself. And so at 12 years old, we embarked on a pretty intensive training program, and I was able to teach him how to be comfortable when he was alone. So they didn't have to hire babysitters anymore just to come and watch their dog if they wanted to go to dinner. But most importantly, I told them their homework is like every day they have to be sure that they go out without their dog for at least 15 minutes because I didn't want them to lose the progress that we'd had.
Go sit in the garage in your car and listen
go
to
for
a
a walk
tune or
without your
something
dog once and then walk again with your dog. But 12 years old and with a lifetime of history and habits formed about how he felt about that, we were able to shift that to the point that he was really comfortable.
Out of curiosity, Kim, I know it's probably a longer story than that, but how do you cure a dog of anxiety like that?
For me, a lot of the training that we do really does focus on what is the dog thinking right now, and how are they feeling. And it only has a very little bit to do with like physically what are they doing. But the physically, what are they doing is oftentimes the first step. So if I can take a dog that's really anxious, and if they get anxious when I leave the room, but if I can work on practicing that dog can hold their body still or keep from pacing or moving around, any of that. Like, how about you just stay still while I leave the room and come back? If their body can be still, then oftentimes what will happen is that their mind will follow. And so for a dog like that, we usually would practice teaching them to be calm. First, while we're stepping on their leash, if they can't really move around, if they're just with us, can they be calm? For separation anxiety cases, that's usually really easy because I'm right next to them. Yeah. So they're not anxious. But then I would teach them, like if I tethered them to something, like tied them to something they can't move, with a leash that's only 3 or 4 feet long. Right. And so if they were in this room, let's say they were, maybe tied to that door right there, and I come to sit down here. So I'm watching them, I'm supervising them, I'm making sure they're safe, but I'm not right next to them, and they don't have the luxury to just get up and walk over here and like lay at my feet. So what if I sat down here? Oftentimes you would see the anxiety already start to surge, even though I'm right here. And so I can really easily work the beginning stages of like, how about you stay calm while you're there, and I'll be calm right here. And we'll both just sit and be, share the space. And then once I could get to something like that, I would move towards like, can you also stay calm while I go out of sight? Even if it's just for a minute or two, I don't even really want you to stand up and be like, like, oh
Right.
no, I can't see you. So
It's
you
like,
don't
oh, yeah,
have
she's
to,
gone to the bathroom.
right. You don't have to start whining, and you don't have to start barking. You don't have to start trying to pace or scratch or anything else. Just like chill, like you were chilling when I was in the room. And a big part of that is the handler, the owner, needs to stay really calm, and especially on the return, they can't get like, oh, it's okay, I'm fine, I'm back, like, because it's almost like we're sort of telling them, yeah,
Right.
you really did have something to be
So
worried
worried
about.
about.
So it's really just a matter of baby steps. And for me, I certainly recognize like that's my full-time job. I could spend the whole day working that. And for me, it makes sense, and it's setting the dog up for success, and it's really structured and strategic. But I'm not also trying to work full time and maybe also parent little kids. And like, I'm not multitasking the way that a regular family would be trying to multitask
Sure.
and also deal with a dog that's anxious. And so sometimes, it's a really huge benefit to be able to have a dog come here and lay the groundwork for how to work through things like that. And then when they go home, the family might be able to just tether the dog while they're cooking dinner or do something else. And then that dog is like calm and relaxed versus under their feet or tripping
Hey,
into them.
I remember that over at boot camp. We were okay.
Yeah, I learned how to do this. I can do it.
That's wild.
Yeah, so it's not. I don't think it's necessarily a complicated process, but it really does. Every moment, I always teach people like your job is to see if you can read their mind and see what they're thinking, because if you can catch it early enough, like before they even start to think about it, then that's how you're going to change the trajectory of like what it would look like.
Interesting. I mean, you've talked about, puppy training, a little bit about puppy training and getting early and specific behaviors that you want to correct. I mean, do you guys offer just the basics, or is it all like a soup to nuts, all encompassing program, or everything in between?
That's a good question.
Or I mean, I guess you do whatever the customer and the dog wants, but I mean, what do you feel is the best? I mean, if I've got a dog that's basically pretty well behaved, not this great heeler, sitter, stare, comer, or whatever, but is a jumper, and I want to get rid of that behavior because I have a number of guests that come over and whatnot. I mean, that's something that you could address.
Absolutely. And most of the time, there isn't just one thing like jumping, but everything else is perfect. But if that were the case, then we could certainly accommodate that. But most of the time, the jumping is just the one thing that is annoying to the family or that doesn't work for the family, but that there are a variety of other things also that are sort of all interconnected. I typically would talk about it sort of like a well-trained, well-mannered dog is almost like a beautiful puzzle that's put together. And if you really only had one piece missing, then for sure we could help you put the one piece in. But what I find is that most of the time people have like maybe the edge pieces, but nothing else is put together. And they're like, can you put this piece in? And you're sort of like, there's a few other pieces that need attention.
I just had my aha moment when you were saying that, and that, many people would go and a well-trained dog on a leash is beautiful. Mm-hmm. Many people will just deal with a dog that's on a leash that's like, okay, I'm over here sniffing, and that's fine for a walk. I mean, for most people.
Sure.
The jumping would be the issue. But then, as you said, that's the aha moment. Well, let's also get him to put that, use your analogy, to put that piece of the puzzle in about him walking and healing and staying.
Sure.
And coming.
And maybe not all the time, but what if you wanted that? Or what if you needed that for safety for some reason? If you were walking, I think about a lot of times on the B&A trail, if you saw some bikes were coming or some kids were running towards you, it might be in your dog's best interest and safest for your dog to be like walking right next to you for a few minutes and then be released to go back and like, okay, you can sniff some more.
Yeah. That's wild. Is there a best time in the dog's life to train them? I mean, you've said there is no, you've done 12-year-olds with anxiety, but I mean, and puppies, yes, but I mean, that's also a different bit of training than an older dog.
Sure. I kind of think the way I would answer that question is through my lens, through my perspective. You're always training your dog. From the moment you get your dog until the moment you no longer have your dog, you are training him. Whether you're taking formal classes or you're working with a professional is besides the point. You're training them every single day when you get out of bed and you come downstairs and their dog goes out and comes in and you feed them. Like, you're either reinforcing potentially behaviors that you love and you want more of, or sometimes and quite often you are accidentally reinforcing behaviors that you don't love, but you're not paying attention. You're not thinking about it. So that's sort of the natural tendency that people would have to be accidentally reinforcing stuff they don't want. There's a huge overlap to parenting, where especially if you see like a parent in a grocery store with a kid who's having a temper tantrum, and then the parent like buys them a candy bar to make them be quiet,
Right,
and everyone
here, put
watching
this
is
in your
like,
mouth and shut
right,
up.
like don't do that. It's the worst thing you could do in that moment. But sometimes you got to do whatever you need to do to get by. But if you're doing it and you know you're doing it, that's very different than if you're doing it and you don't have a clue that you just made grocery shopping harder for next week versus just
Right,
getting by for this
right.
week.
The child comes in and now
So
knows
I kind of think you're always training. And obviously, if there's a point in the dog's life, like a transition, either you've just adopted the dog or it's a puppy, that's a great time for training because everything's going to be shifting and changing anyway. So why not mold and get more of the stuff that you love? Yeah.
That makes sense. Talk to me about your virtual training. I mean, that's very unusual, I think. I mean, I didn't take this huge deep dive, but I'm sitting here thinking, yes, I can come over here and we can put them in boot camp or we can do private lessons or even group lessons. But virtual training, I mean, don't you need to be near the dog to see what it's doing and to help guide me when I'm training my dog?
Well, you would think that. I actually used to think that. But then
COVID hit.
a couple of things happened and COVID was one of them. But even before COVID, I went on an international business retreat to Italy. And while I was there, I interfaced with a woman who was from Italy, and she found out I was a dog trainer. And like a lot of people do when they find out I'm a dog trainer, I found out all about her dog and some of the issues that she was having. And like sitting at a business cocktail hour, I gave her some tips of things that she could do with her dog when she got home. And about 2 months later, she emailed me and she said, like, everything is resolved. Like the tips that you gave me worked like magic. And now I'm not having the problems I was having before. And then that happened a bunch more times before it dawned on me that I probably could be pretty helpful in coaching people. And I don't even really need to meet their dog directly. And so I had created the online dog training program, like the self-paced one that you mentioned. It's called Manners Matter. And it's designed for a person to go through like a 4-week span where you watch videos and have some homework and there's things to read and things to watch and things to do, like to learn all about our philosophy and the different exercises to train. And so that was in existence a long time ago, maybe almost 10 years ago at this point. And I had that available for people sort of all over the world. And I had some clients in Europe that went through that program and had great results from their dogs. And then when COVID hit and everything closed and everybody adopted a dog, and then they were like, uh-oh, like, I don't know how to do this. We started to do our group training classes virtually. And we thought it would be through COVID, and then why would you keep doing that? And what we found out was there's a really fascinating element to that we hadn't predicted, which is when I come to your house for a private lesson, I hear and have heard for 15 years, people say to me, my dog never acts like this. Like he's on his best behavior because you're here. And part of that is
it's the same with kids. I hear it all the time.
Right.
Oh, your kid was just an angel.
So good. You're like, are you
Did
sure
I
you're
put him
talking
at the wrong house?
Right. Are you talking about my kid? Right. So people will say like, my dog never acts like this. He's always bad. And now he's really good. And sometimes that's just because there's a person there. Sometimes it's because the dog trainer has like this air about them as far as a sort of a natural leadership component to it that the dogs just follow
it's like,
along.
Oh, dude, there's a new alpha dog here.
Yeah. And it's not like I don't have any magic dust that I'm sprinkling around their family room, but I heard it over and over again. My dog never acts like this or never this good. And then the other option would be somebody's coming to group class. So they take their dog out of their house and take him somewhere else. And sometimes we hear the same thing, like my dog is on his best behavior or distracted by the other dogs. He's not doing what he normally does at home. And during COVID, when we were having group classes virtually, we saw what they were talking about. We saw how their dog normally acted at home when the trainer wasn't there. And we were able to then coach people on how to handle that or what to do without another person in the space. And we found it to be incredibly valuable. And then we had like dozens of clients that were just begging us, like, please don't stop offering those classes, because it's an specifically unique element that we just can't access any other way, because the dogs don't know, obviously, that we're watching them. So we'll just we see what's naturally happening in their house, and then
That's
we can help
wild.
coach them.
That's,
Yeah,
boy, I mean, all from a conversation in
right.
Italy. I
Exactly.
need to go back there more often.
Okay, I will.
um, on your website, it mentions therapy. Now, and I did click on it, and it's not therapy for the dogs.
Right. No, it's not.
It's therapy dogs.
Yeah.
Right. And that is a whole different level of training.
It is. And it's one of the things that I'm super passionate about. And our program has expanded over the past, I would say, 10 years or so to be very robust and very influential in the Annapolis and Anne Arundel communities. So we have a lot of people that really want to volunteer with their dogs, giving back to the community in some way, shape, or form. So we have a trainer on my staff. Her name is Javon, whose 2 dogs are both certified for pet therapy, and she runs all of the pet therapy classes where people can come and learn in a group class how to do that. Like, how do I get my dog to be good enough to pass the evaluation? Because we have our clients evaluate with a company, national company called Pet Partners. You go through a handler exam and then a practical where you're with your dog and the evaluator is testing you. And if you pass that test, then you're certified. If you're certified, then you can go into the community and volunteer.
And when we're talking about these therapy dogs, I mean, this isn't a service dog. This isn't the service peacock that you can bring on the on the airplane or
Right.
anything like that. We're talking about a dog that could maybe go into a senior community.
Correct.
To give some of the residents that may not have had a dog for many years the beauty that it is a dog. It works in trauma situations.
Mhm.
If somebody has witnessed something bad, criminally or something like that, they evidence in. I know that recently in Annapolis, they had the Severna Park teacher trial where they had brought some therapy dogs in as well.
Yes. And I think that all of the dogs that were involved in that case were ones that had gone through our training program.
I'm sad. I'm conflicted here because it's a bummer that they had to be there, but it's
yes. And there's another case coming up next week, and there's new therapy dogs that have just been certified that are practicing in the courthouse and in the witness box, so that they also would be to the point where they can help in cases like that. It's really hard on the handler, obviously hearing, what they're hearing when they're in there, but it's hard in that you're there and you're on call.
Sure.
And you're like ready to go. And then hopefully they might not have the kids testify. It's really powerful and very beneficial. And Anne Arundel County was the beta test for the whole country. And the woman who works for me, Javon, is the one who really helped spearhead that whole
That's awesome.
that whole program. And so we do have a lot of people who are interested in different things. But yes, therapy dogs are that your dog is going to go help someone else versus a service dog is like your dog is helping you.
Right. Is there a particular breed that leads itself into a therapy dog? I mean, I know typically I see Goldens and Labs.
Yeah, any breed. I have 3 dogs, and they're actually right in here right now.
Well-behaved dogs, I might add. I haven't heard a peep.
2 of them were certified therapy dogs when they were younger, and one in particular was her specialty really was working with special needs kids. And the more unpredictable or unsettled or sort of out of control those kids were, almost the better she was. And then starting during COVID, but for many years later, we worked privately with a local family that had a autistic child who was a young teenager who was incredibly fearful of dogs. And Abby spent, I want to say, almost 2 years, once a week, working with this child to the point where, I mean, it used to be that if he was like on an airplane and there was another dog, if there was a dog on the airplane, they would have to change their flight. Like he couldn't, it was affecting their life almost in every way. If he was at the park and someone walked their dog through the park, he would have to go home. He couldn't be around another dog. And so we worked for a long time to build his confidence, and Abby, my dog, really helped bring that out in him. And now he loves dogs. And the thing he loves most is asking my dogs to bark, and then they bark on command. So he asks them to bark and they bark. And so we did that on purpose because I wanted him to not be afraid of dogs barking. I wanted him to feel sort of empowered by it. Like I did that. But now apparently when he goes out and he sees dogs, he always wants them to bark. So he's trying to get every dog to, and his mom is always like, not every dog knows how to bark on command, but that's the problem that they're having now versus like, we better get in the car and go home because he can't even function. So
seems like a much better problem.
It's really, that one was specifically tailored towards sort of rehabilitating one child, but, we go into schools and we help with so many programs, and at the hospitals, especially visiting in the pediatric ward or anywhere in the hospital, visiting patients. It's always nice to sort of a pick me up for them to have a dog come in and visit.
Animals are so good in so many different ways.
It's hard to get past the nurses station sometimes because they're the ones who probably need that therapy the most. But no, it's so rewarding to be able to volunteer in the community and be able to support so many people with the love that your dog has to share with people. And I'm just really proud that we have such a robust way to support so many people in the community that really want to do that.
Wow. Well, you mentioned a couple of things. I mean, you said that the self-guided thing was 10 years plus. You said about 15 years ago you did this. How long has Paws and Possibilities been around? And how big is your organization? I mean, you mentioned a couple of different trainers that you have.
Sure. So I opened Paws and Possibilities in 2009, and every year it's grown. And so it started just me. And then if a year or two in, I hired someone else, and it sort of built and built and built until now we have, I think, 6 trainers, some part-time, a handful of high school students that help with all the classes. So some admin support. Like, it's grown to be, pretty nice size small business here in Anne Arundel County.
That's wild.
But the goal has always been really helping people, like peace of mind for people, especially families when they're struggling. As I mentioned before, it's like that level of stress that you have in your house if there's a problem with your dog is for us to be able to help alleviate that. It's like, that's why I sleep at night.
Stress just manifests itself in any number of ways. I mean, the old joke is like, you have a real bad day at work, you come home and kick the cat. And, you don't do that. But I mean, but again, I mean, it does manifest yourself way. I mean, and you wouldn't be, hopefully you're not as short with your children or something when you've had a bad day. What do you want? A little,
Yeah.
But you're more apt to do that with a dog for some reason. They're just easily the same, they're part of your family and they want to be with you.
Especially if they're doing something to aggravate the process. You're starving and you're trying to cook dinner. All of a sudden your dog is on the counter trying to steal it from you.
Right.
Like, nobody really wants to deal with that.
Again, manners matter.
Yeah.
I guess some manners matter. It's funny. I had a little Shih Tzu that was fairly well trained. He never went. I mean, I worked with him and stuff like that, and I wish I had known you were here because we had to put him down several years ago. But the weirdest thing, thunder, hated it. And as soon as he heard thunder, he would immediately go into this little hallway by our laundry room and pee.
Oh.
Okay. And then the next thing he would do is after he left his puddle, would run to the front door and scratch the hell out of it because he wanted to go outside. I'm like, dude, you don't want to go outside. You want to stay inside.
That's going to make it worse.
And stop peeing.
Right.
But, never was able to figure that out. And it was, I know when there were storms coming, we put little puppy pads down.
Yeah.
Just to, that was our way of dealing with it.
To help get through it. Sure.
And, the thunder blankets never worked or anything like that.
Yeah.
Kim, how did you get to become a dog whisperer?
Well, I started pretty young in life working with animals. Starting at 6 or 7 years old, I started riding horses. By the time I was a teenager, I was competing nationally in horseback riding. I showed in the hunter circuit up and down the East Coast. When I was 18 years old, I was 3rd in the country. So we had a horse farm in Northern Virginia, and I had 3 horses, and I would spend every afternoon riding and every weekend traveling for horse shows. So I had an early start into my experience of interacting with animals and training animals. And then I went to college thinking I would be a vet because I was pretty smart. I was like 2nd in my class in high school, and then went off to college thinking if I like math and science and I love animals, then I guess I'll be a vet. But when I was in college, I did an internship with wild dolphins off the coast of North Carolina. I also thought that was pretty interesting. And it sort of took a turn in my career from there. And when I graduated from college, I ended up working with exotic animals for 10 years, training them. And over that tenure, I trained dolphins, sea lions, seals, exotic birds, penguins, like a variety of different animals. I worked on some movie sets and some commercials, national commercials. And also then most of my career was at the National Aquarium in Baltimore.
Oh.
And I was a dolphin trainer there. Before I left, I was sort of the senior trainer that was in charge of helping to teach newer dolphin trainers how to do that job. And so I left the aquarium when my kids were born. I had, 2 kids and then stayed home with them for a couple of years. And about the time I was thinking I'd like to go back to work, I was sort of also feeling like I wanted the flexibility to be able to see them after school or be around on the weekends.
It's huge. It's huge.
Yeah. And so I decided I would start training dogs. My goal originally, it was really geared towards, I'm going to teach people how to train their dogs, which is really the crust of it. I know a lot of dog trainers that say they like to train dogs because they don't want to interact with people, but I don't feel like they're going to be very successful because it's the people that you need to make the biggest transformations with.
Sure.
The dogs are the easy part.
Are dolphins as cool as they seem?
They are. They're super smart. And so it really gave me a unique and powerful experience to really learn how effective training is and how detailed and precise you can be to get pretty tangible and powerful results.
Is there a breed that is most trainable, that's most agreeable to be training that you find? I mean, or maybe it's just happenstance. I mean, I'm sure you think that every breed is trainable.
I do think every breed is trainable. I think that it matters not the breed. It really matters what the owners want, how they want their relationship with their dog. So if somebody has a really active lifestyle, and let's say they have kids and they live in Annapolis and they do sports and they want their dog with them everywhere they go and they're going to be on their boat every weekend, that's a different breed of dog I would recommend than somebody who, is secluded and lives by themselves and thinks their perfect day is just the whole day on the couch. So I look at more of, for me, what type of dog would be a good match for what kind of life you want to have with your dog versus just say like, I love golden retrievers and everyone should just have one of those. Like, I think it just matters more what you want.
That's a really unique way to look at that.
Yeah.
That it's, and you've really put families and humans first because they're the ones that are going to have to live with it. After so many weeks with you, they don't have to live with you. Do dogs have a tough time adjusting, going back to an owner after they've been here to a boot camp? I mean, you're like the drill sergeant for 2 weeks and then all of a sudden, oh, I remember you.
Yeah. I feel like, when their owners come back and pick them up, I do feel like that reunion is really special. The owners are super excited to see their dogs. The dogs are so excited to see the owners. The feedback that I get time and time again is that people are blown away at the change in their dog. Even sometimes as we talk outside, on this lesson before they go home, they're like, this doesn't even seem like the same dog, because the difference is that now their dog is calm. And some people have never even really seen their dog calm before. So there have been people I've said to before, like, you're going to go home and I've had phone calls in the past where somebody called me like, are you sure my dog's not sick? I'm like, well, what's wrong? Like, why do you think your dog is sick? And they're like, well, they're just laying down and they're not like jumping on me or badgering me or bringing me a toy every 5 seconds. And
they're not like, eating the steak off of the kitchen cabinet.
And so sometimes that transition of having a dog that has learned how to be calm is very transformative for what it's like to live with them.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wild. Any kind of an incorrigible dog? Have you run across any of those, all the dogs that you've trained? We don't need to name names.
Yeah.
It wasn't like Mrs. Smith's.
No, I won't name names. I do feel like I have had 2 cases in 16 years that I thought the dog should be euthanized. Too far gone, not appropriate, not responding to training, too quick to want to try to bite the owner. Both of those cases were cases that didn't start that way. It wasn't like they were born with this, but it had 3 or 4 years of accidental reinforcement of behavior you don't want, but the behavior you didn't want was aggressive. And that over that 3 or 4 years, it got worse and worse and worse until it's like every single person in the family had been in the hospital. They, 911 on speed dial because of all the problems they're having with their dog. And so sometimes dogs like that transform very quickly once you add a little structure and give them some rules and reinforce them for making different choices. And some dogs are just very attached to no, it has to be this. It has to be this way or else.
Well, I think humans are too.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you can't train.
Right.
Sometimes you can't train it.
I have had some people I feel like I have trouble training too.
That's true. You probably have better luck with dogs than you do with people. That's for sure. Well, I'll tell you, if you are a human with an ill-mannered dog, or if you just have a dog that maybe just needs a refresher or something like that, give Paws and Possibilities a call. You can check out everything they've got, pawsandpossibilities.com. And you really have something for absolutely everybody. And it seems probably every budget. I mean, from the online where you can just sit there and self-guide yourself through training. And personally, that's probably what I would do, see how that works, and then say, okay, well, this worked out great.
Yeah.
You're a brilliant dog whisperer on camera. If they need touch-ups, then, we can come in and we can do a group session or a private session, or if he's really incorrigible, we'll send him into boot camp here. But it would really appeal to every level of dog ownership. Yeah. And that's really, really very unique. But again, pawsandpossibilities.com. And Kim Greco, I want to thank you so much for having me out.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming here.
Thanks for listening to this week's Local Business Spotlight. Please make sure to visit eyeonannapolis.net for all your local news, events, and opinion. And in case you haven't already, please subscribe to the Eye on Annapolis Daily News Brief, where we bring you all the day's local news direct to your phone, tablet, or computer in about 10 minutes. It comes to you at 6 a.m. every Monday through Friday, and you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.